Okay, good.
Okay.
Glenn, ready? Good. Warm welcome to our Total Revenue Management Masterclass. I take the lead even if I feel more close to the death than alive, but my partner in crime, Mr. Anders Johansson, will definitely be the strong part in this. If I say we are a team of 3 researchers, and he's even the owner of Demand Calendar. We work on the topic of total revenue management and evolution of revenue management. The third person, Mr. Brendan Shan, also my colleague, senior lecturer at the Singapore Institute of Technology. I'm a prof there, and I leave it up to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm nowadays I have my software company, Demand Calendar. I have been in the industry for 35 plus years as a CEO for small hotel groups and worked with revenue management since the late 1980s. And I've been teaching revenue management for 18 years at one of the universities in Sweden. So we think that this is fantastic to work between Singapore and Sweden and try to advance total revenue management.
Perfect. Now, the funny or the sad story is, in academia, but also in the industry, minimum 20 years, even a bit more, we talk about total revenue management. And it doesn't happen. We see some examples, some hotel brands, some independent, some chain hotels, which make the claim they're running TRM. They look at behind this, it's not really TRM. Anyway, they can make the claim there's nothing wrong, but TRM has so much potential, especially now after COVID or post-COVID, so it's worth to think about this. But I think the magic point is always how to start. And once you have gone through this phase to start to know the structure, reporting, organization, culture, etc., then it's much easier to roll it out at a bigger scale. So we have today 3 learning objectives. Typical professor, apologize. Learning objectives, learning outcomes, always very important. What is it? How to make it work? And then a kind of action plan.
Yeah, but before we start, it's like you are probably a little bit blocked. So first of all, you should jot down what do you think the challenges are getting started. Do you have any challenges at all to get started? Probably. Write them down. We will come back to them later in the presentation and ask you what were your challenges. So take a minute just to jot down a few challenges that you see, how to get started with total revenue management.
Typical challenges always expressed by revenue managers. They say, yeah, we learned revenue management for room divisions. So we don't know anything about revenue management, F&B, MICE or SPA. This could be one of the challenges. And of course, within this 45 minutes, write more of the challenges you realize. If you follow our slideshow, maybe there are coming up some aspects where you say, this is nice to discuss, but we can't do it in our place for whatever reason. Okay, so please feel free to bring up the challenges, and we are then very happy to discuss maybe ways to overcome these challenges.
Yeah, so we are teachers in our profession, so we don't see you writing stuff now. So please,
no grades
write
allocated.
Something. Yeah.
Just pass, fail.
Yeah. Okay. 1 minute is up.
It's up, okay.
Yeah.
But you can continue to write up if you like, and I guess you see more challenges. Okay, quite simple. Where's the need for total revenue management? We have to recoup the losses from post-COVID, all of us. Let's face it as it is, okay? But it's also the role of commercial. You might have heard about this role of commercial to combine really revenue management, distribution, sales, and marketing to break down silos and to gain synergy effects. That's also important. Often enough, marketing sales works against revenue management. Not on purpose sometimes, it happens just so. You know, they get incentivized on the volume and revenue management on the RevPAR, just as a simple exercise. And of course, in the long term, and I see this quite critical, see it super critical, revenue management has to change. Revenue management is still now very much short-term transactional. But we have to move on to long-term relationship building. So to a kind of customer-centric approach. Because at the end of the day, we are not all having our hotel properties in Venice or in Las Vegas, where you go once and they have so much bookings, they don't need customers really coming back, not that much. Our hotels need having to build relationships with customers, loyal customers, retain customers. And then you have to have a customer-centric approach. Now, there is a bit confusion, and please, all the time step in, Anders, if you agree or disagree. There's a bit confusion, what is total revenue, what is ancillary revenue. Now, in simple terms, if you talk about total revenue management, we talk about the rooms division, we talk about F&B, MICE, spa, parking. Anything else? No.
Yeah, golf and
yeah.
A lot of stuff.
And ancillary revenues, then laundry service, Wi-Fi, etc. We are also doing research on ancillary revenues or revenue optimization, a huge field where so many hotels fail to make more money. The money is there, but it's not. I give you an example. I was now recently back in Bangkok for a couple of days, not I think 2 weeks, whatever. And the second day I used the laundry service. It was a great service. I got it back in the same day in the evening, wonderful, folded, nice, clean. And then 2 days later I thought, I use it another time. It's quite affordable, whatever. And what happened? No laundry back there. No, this order sheet was also missing. By the way, order sheet. Guys, I don't have the time, the interest to fill out this order sheet for my dirty laundry. Just make it count, wash it, clean it, and I'm happy to pay the price. So this is ancillary revenue. But the focus is, of course, more on revenue-generating departments, as I said, F&B, MICE, spas, parking, etc. I have to click there and look there. This is confusing. Click there, look there. Anders.
Yeah, so the benefits. First of all, it's the huge benefit is that you want to increase your revenue, your total revenue. So, and when you increase your revenue, you will increase your profits if you do it right. And it's hard to miss that, actually. So that is the main purpose. Yeah, let's move on from...
Improved pricing strategy. Once you have done the basics of revenue management, forecasting, demand, supply pattern, etc., price elasticity, whatever. You can apply this not only in rooms division, but also in other revenue-generating departments. So you can learn from the experience you have already gained. Improved resource allocation. You don't need to do forecast where and what. You can do it in one go if you know how to do it. So you save on resources. And the idea is, and I'm a bit critical about this, but let's assume it works, improve customer satisfaction. In the early stage, revenue management was developed. It was said one of the outcomes that customers are more satisfied and happy with revenue management practice. Now we know it can work, but not necessarily must work this way. So we have to be careful about this. But if it's well executed, there's a good chance. Okay, click there, look there. Yeah. Now, the challenges are, first of all, the field of technology, big issue. That we have so many systems, way too much systems, by the way. They're all interfaced, but not really well interfaced. And the data flow is therefore not really great, and the data quality is meager or not really of great quality. And of course, we have a lack of trained revenue management staff. As I said, many revenue managers coming from reservations, front office, sales background, whatever, and they say, no, rooms division, I know everything, that's fine, but F&B, go away. Spa, oh God, go away. Parking, what's this? You know, so they really say, I lack the skills. We have, especially in our F&B departments, but also in spa, really the lack of tracking guest flow spending in all outlets. And it's also a bit an issue which is difficult to overcome because, take my example, as a professor, I'm going to conferences, I stay in nice hotels or not so nice hotels, I eat, I drink. Oh, wait, I'm not allowed to drink alcohol. Also I'm allowed, but I have to pay on my own. Also it means I'm allowed, okay, that's good news, but I have to pay on my own. So it means I have to separate this. It means they cannot really in hotel track what is the total spend of Professor Remy because the alcohol is missing. And it might be a big part because I feel Irish, so we love to drink. Yeah, big issue. Okay, lack of metrics. We don't really have a commonly used and well-developed metric for total revenue management. We have RevPAR, we have NRevPAR as development. We work on more, but TRevPAR is not really the best if you want to compare, benchmark against your comp set. And we have a process of traditional segmentation, which we are working on, so there's some hope that it's getting better. We have a big issue in my view with loyal customers, because loyal customers are loyal because of coherence and consistency. As I always say, brand consistency. And brand consistency means also a quite static price. You know what you get. Also you don't like the idea if a Ritz-Carlton costs normally $800 and maybe it costs just one night to $200. And when you realize you have a new guest potential there, which you don't like to see there, by the way, because we have a cheap Charlies, right? So it's a bit debatable. And of course, always the question, where should we start? The most promising area is definitely food and beverage. Yeah, food and beverage is the most promising area. Okay.
Yeah. So how do you start? So there are two different approaches. The first one is the simplest one. It's a siloed approach. You forecast, or you start with room revenue management, food and beverage revenue management, meeting space revenue management, spa revenue management, and so on. And you look at each department separately. That is probably the easiest way to get started. And the other approach is a more holistic approach where you go for the customer as the starting point. So you want to attract customers or guests, and you want to sell as much as you can to each guest. So it's two totally different approaches. And the first approach is what we are used to in the hotel industry. And I'm a real hospitality person, and I don't like what I see when I talk to revenue managers all around the world, because you're only focused on capacity and you want to sell the capacity. You don't care at all about who is in that capacity. As long as someone is in the bed, someone is at the table in the restaurant, someone is in the meeting room, could be anyone. You don't care about the customers anymore. So we also want to market the second approach, that you should focus on the customer and really get to deliver what the customer needs and wants.
That's my dream topic, and one of the next on the research agenda. It was discussed 15 years ago, called CCRM, Customer-Centric Revenue Management. Ben, we know, by the way. And the idea is, like in other industries, take the example of Volkswagen Group. You know Volkswagen Group? Yeah, nice cars. And they have a whole brand portfolio. Why? Because they can, of course, but the reason is another one. They catch you at an early stage where you buy a cheap Volkswagen. And then you move up the ladder, your career ladder. And once you are successful, like Anders, you end up with a Bentley.
I wish.
Yeah. And I still drive a Volkswagen Polo. No, I'm joking. I drive a MRT here. Okay? Now, if you look at Accor and Marriott, they have this. They get you once at an early stage where you go for a cheap brand or the value-based brand, and you move up then and you stay then at the Ritz-Carltons and St. Regis, etc., etc. Okay? This is all based on this idea of CLV, customer lifetime value. It's good to know, and it's basically neglected in our industry, but as part of TRM, to look at the guest journey and the customer lifetime value. And I always tell my students, look at me, I'm old. My life expectancy is coming soon. Could be next week, next month, or next year latest. I'm done. Anders is young.
I'm done too.
No, I'm not done. Oh. When we look at Brendan, he is young and has a future and he has so much potential. He stays every month in a nice hotel. You must look at this, how much potential the individual customer has. And it's not only what he pays for the room. It is also what he spends all over. As I said, I am always looking for good room rates. By the way, if you run hotels, feel free to invite me. But I'm good for spending for ancillary revenues and for spending F&B in the restaurant, in the bar, mostly in the bar, laundry service, spa, parking, etc. And this is a quite good amount.
Yeah, but this also sounds a bit complicated, and this masterclass is about how to get you started. So start with the siloed approach, take one department at a time, and don't do what they said this morning. I'm sorry to say that, but don't go into all the details immediately. Look at the big picture. Forecast the total revenue per department. That's a good start. And then when you get used to it, when you want more information, then you start to dig down into the details. But if you don't start big, you will never start.
Back to some theory and also give some credentials to the guru of hotel revenue management. That's not me, not at all. Too late. Professor Sherry Kimes, Cornell University. She developed this conceptual model, and I just would like to go through this quickly. It's about developing a strategy. For everything what you plan, you have to have a strategy. Even if you get married, you need a strategy. Exit strategy. Look at the 5 Ps. Look at the 5 Ps. And I always say the 5 Ps, they are a challenge on its own. And often, and too often, focus on one P only. Guess which P we focus on?
Price.
Price. Guys, this is the worst. Okay, by the way, if you invite me, focus on the price. But normally, don't add value. It starts with a product. You have a clear value proposition. It starts with a promotion. It's a personalized, customized, and unique promotion. Place, distribution. Yes, direct plus some indirect. And people. How we deal with our people on the front. Disgusting sometimes, isn't it? Yeah? But they are our brand ambassadors. They represent our brand and they sell, they upsell and they cross-sell. So we have to focus on them. So Sherry Kimes described a 5-step process. Establish a baseline. Where are we? What are our pain points? And we have so many pain points. What are revenue opportunities? What are niches? Understanding the causes. For example, in restaurants, why is it that people stay that long there? And by the way, in Singapore, in Asia, in the world, but I will never understand, I will die and I will never get this. If I have finished my meal, and it was served quite quickly, quite nicely, and it was even good. It takes some ages that I can pay.
Not anymore. Now you scan and you pay and then you get served.
Too often.
Yeah.
And the worst is they run away with my credit card in the dark corner, and months later I get a bill. I watched porn movies for $1,000. No, I didn't. You know, this is really scary. So we have to look at the causes, for example, what causes that they stay too long, too short, etc., etc. Service blueprint, for example. Especially for F&B, I don't know, it was covered in the morning. I was going for a board meeting, apologize. But service blueprint. What is the stage, host, how much time it takes to read the menu to make a decision? Remember my first wife, decision making for menu, more than 5 pages. It was a loss of time. You have to be aware of this. And when we scanned one with the QR code nowadays, on your mobile phone, I read a menu, it's small letters, I'm lost. I'm too old for such things. Yeah? Think about this. You have, if you know the causes, if you know the sequences and processes, you can optimize or leave it as it is. But it's your chance, okay? Developing a strategy, implementing the strategy, and it must come top-down approach that leadership management supports this. If not, what's the point? And as always, measure. Measure, measure, measure. Good. Then we have to look for tools. We have to deal with 3 periods, right? High demand, low demand, shoulder periods. Which one is the most challenging one? You have no challenging periods? It's all good? I am surprised. I'm in the wrong room. Wrong audience. I guess low period is a quite challenging one, right? High demand, you have to be just careful that your trained people don't open the wrong barcode and all rates and all such things. What can happen with small mistakes and with big mistakes, whatever. But low demand periods are quite a challenge on its own. But there are ways, okay? There are ways we can work it out. And of course, we have to develop a kind of TRM culture, or I call it also sometimes yield culture. And my example of this is, which I love a brand, Four Seasons. If you go to any Four Seasons, let's say most Four Seasons, there is a natural yield culture. They try, in a nice way, to sell, to upsell, to cross-sell. They never leave you alone, but you don't feel it's selling. You feel it's a pleasure to get your wallet out of your jacket and to pay extra whatever. It's a real pleasure. Yeah? It's great, and that's the way it should be done. So you have to develop a culture where your employees, not you, you say we have to have more revenue. And the employees, you have to persuade them, to convince them, and to make them as a really revenue management culture brand ambassador.
Yeah, research also shows that the more people buy, the more satisfied they are. So it's also good to make the guests more satisfied by selling more or offering them a service. It's felt like a service when you're offered to buy more.
Take my example of F&B. Even with this, bloody QR codes. And I get always mad. I want to have a menu. They don't have a menu, I'm going, seriously. COVID is done and over. We have that officially from our government. Okay, we can go back to our menu. The best story for me, all my life story is, you get a quite nice menu, nice choice, you order, and they remove the menu. Do they really think I steal the menu? What's the point to remove the menu? Because in between I might have something, I could a bit space, there's space left, I could eat a bit more. And no chance. I would like to have a dessert after the main course. No way, no waiters in sight.
Yeah, stakeholders. So you are revenue managers, most of you. So everyone will in the hotel, from top management and the general managers, they will say, wow, this is great, total revenue management, so do it. You could probably do all these things as well, but you are already overwhelmed with a lot of work. So you need to talk to the different stakeholders and start at the top with the owners or CEO, general managers, and you have to get their buy-in because you need them to give you a budget to invest in a system, invest in time, and maybe you need more manpower also to get started with total revenue management.
We have to speed up a bit, just a bit, in the interest of time, and that Ms. Pallavi-Nath is not too embarrassed about our delayed. Where's Pallavi? Pallavi? She's waiting. We have time. Develop a project plan. Planning the costs. Costs could be, for example, training or APIs, interfaces, whatever. Okay, technology. But also planning resources and planning the risk. And the risk could be, for example, employee acceptance and customer acceptance, but they don't accept this. So you have to persuade them. Not order by mufti, but really convince them. Okay? Now, then we have discussed already with stakeholders. They must be all on board. And we need constantly to monitor, to control what we are doing. That's also a bit an issue in our industry, but we are not doing very well on this. Okay, again, inform, convince the relevant stakeholders. And stakeholders are, I think you mentioned CFO, for example, Chief Financial Officer. It might be not only employees, might be sometimes even outsiders, supplier, vendors, whatever, must be also convinced. Now educate your staff on the cost of room distribution, cost of customer acquisition. Big issue, a seminar on its own.
Yeah.
How expensive is it to win a new customer via OTAs? Yeah? And I say, that's okay, do it. But this customer, once in your house, must book the next time direct. I am quite often asked here by hotel brands in Singapore to stay for 1 or 2 nights in a hotel, and they ask me, but Prof, please check that they ask you at the stay time to subscribe to our loyalty program. Do they ask me? No. Are they afraid of me? I don't know. I don't mind. Have they forgotten this? I don't know. Because I cannot ask them, because then I would make it biased. But it's interesting, isn't it? And by the way, with the loyalty programs, not good. Not good. My personal favorite is, if I may say so, Shangri-La. Every time I go to the Shangri-La just for a drink, I get my points. And if I go for a Merit, hope we know Merit guys here, or for a Shangri-La, I get a Merit, no points, but a nice drink. I get the same nice drink as Shangri-La, but extra points. Greedy as I am, I go for Shangri-La to get some points. Yeah. Create a revenue culture. We discussed this, set goal incentives, develop metrics, because if you don't measure, what's the whole point, right? And big issue where Ms. Pallavi focused later on her masterclass on total revenue forecast. Also, you know how to optimize forecasting as such. Right? I thought so. So, identify a path to TRM. That means look at the stakeholders, look at the most profitable, promising areas, look at the department with strengths and weaknesses. Go, in this case, for the easy solution. If spa is a big tricky, go for F&B or parking, etc. And be aware of your revenue cost structure. And then, of course, this issue of patterns, you know, look at the business flow, key revenue drivers, last 3 years. Okay, in this case, we have to look for more than 3 years because COVID was unfortunately a bit distracting. And understand patterns, seasonal, local demand, loyalty. F&B, you have hotel customers and you have walk-ins. You have to be very careful about this, but it can work out quite well. Now, shall I continue or would you like to step in?
Yeah, you can.
I love value proposition. I always say with revenue management, if you don't, as a hotel or restaurant or whatever, if you don't have a value proposition, do two things. Do not apply revenue management and try to sell your business to somebody who has no clue about this and pay the price. Value proposition, guys, it's so important. We discussed yesterday also what is the reason people come to restaurants. And there are not that many reasons. The food is great. Yes. Secondly, I feel home there. Yes. That means I feel home, they know me, they address me correctly, they make me feel home. Fantastic. Or it's great value for money, chicken rice at a hawker stall. Okay? Not so many reasons. And you have to have a value position, not tapas and Japanese and Chinese and German food. One thing, but done very well. What is this here, what I love so much in Singapore? Dim Tai Fung? Is this Dim Tai Fung, this Taiwanese Chinese restaurant? I love it. Value for money, good service, and quite healthy. I think so. Yeah? Okay, also value position is really important. Now, investigate customer flow, also again, service blueprint, whatever, so important. And remove obstacles, barriers for revenue optimization. For example, booking process. Now, we are so much behind. Go to hotel brands, websites, and try to make a booking for a restaurant there. No chance. Try to make a booking for a spa on a hotel brand website. No chance. Try to make a booking for a parking space. No chance. But even if you try to make a booking for a hotel, okay, and now I take another example because Singapore works quite well. Look at Switzerland, look at Italy. We learned OTA's 3-step, right? 3 steps and then booking is done. Yeah. I just opened booking.com on my computer. Welcome back, Professor Remy. I love it. And I think it's just 2 steps for me. Plus always a genius discount. I love discounts. Also don't apply discounts, but from a customer perspective, we love discounts. Okay? Now, Italy, Switzerland, for example, still often enough, they ask you sometimes for an email address and then saying we come back to you. And sometimes they come even back to you. Sometimes not. Amazing. Also you have to look at these processes.
I'm a little bit more loyal to the hotels. I rarely book through Booking or Expedia or OTAs.
Such a good guy,
unless you have unless you have screwed up your rate parity, then
As before COVID, I was also a bit more towards direct. Post-COVID, because of the danger, no cancellation, blah, 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 I said, no, it's much better. Mm-hmm. But, okay, we go for this. Yeah, okay. Organize responsibility process, involve stakeholders. You see all the time, stakeholders. You have to think about the line of reporting organizational structure. Who is in access of data? Is it the revenue manager? Is it director of revenue management? Is it CFO? Who is in access of data, of all data? Yeah. And again, you see, we try to recall this total revenue optimization culture. Make it clear to your employees there is so much potential. And really, I have to say, I attract bad luck. Wherever I stay, I attract bad luck. It's really maybe better not to invite me for anything, because really wherever I stay, I attract bad luck. Nothing really works. Last hotel in Pattaya, I was staying there. I arrived there, sweaty as I was. I took a shower. Guess what? Not a single towel. Yeah? Okay, I have a balcony, so I was standing for half an hour on the balcony. Natural drying process was working, but I thought, how is it possible? How is it possible? Hotel here in Singapore, recently checked in quite late on the night shift already, and I'm not joking, no toilet paper. I tell you. Okay, so we have to look at this. There is so much optimization potential. In one way, in terms of process optimization, and then from there on, in terms of revenue optimization. It means you have to done the basics, first of all, right. And then you can optimize your revenues. Yeah. Okay? So, within this challenge, we ask you, what are the challenges? There also might be risk. For example, that you say, from the customer perspective, oh, my customers wouldn't like the idea. They already pay more in high demand periods for the rooms, and now they should pay more for food and beverage as well. This could be seen as a risk. Okay? But don't forget one thing. It depends also a bit on the category and very much on the value proposition. If you have high-end hotels, Four Seasons, etc., you really don't mind too much if you charge $10 or $20 more for parking, or drink costs not 26 but maybe 28 or 29 bucks.
It's all about your customer profile,
yeah,
and the audience that you are trying to attract.
Right. Now, sample plan. Anders, your part. Click,
so,
click and look.
Click.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
The first part is to really think about the purpose. Why are you doing this? And you have to, that's a good way to include the top stakeholders also, that you explain that the purpose of this is to, first step is to increase the revenue and then increase the profitability. And then I click like hell. I click and click. Okay. Yeah. So then you need to work a little bit on the market analysis and see what is the potential for all these revenue sources. And you have to document that a little bit also, so you know what you're doing. And make your wish list. You can always start with the sentence, I wish I knew, and then say what you really would like to know. And then the next step would be to actually try to find that type of data. It starts with I wish I knew, because you have to think first, what type of information do you need? And then you can find that information. The revenue sources, we have talked a lot about the different revenue sources. In the end, we both think that you should have the customer perspective or the customer approach, but that's too difficult to start with. So go revenue by revenue source, and it says data on the slides. You need the data, but start with high-level data, and then after you get more comfortable with every single revenue source and a better understanding what you need for revenue sources, then you can dig into more detailed data. Yeah.
Meetings and events.
Same.
We move on.
Meetings and events. Yeah.
Customer segments.
Customer segments. So that's also important to understand more about the customer segments. And this could be a starting point for the customer approach also. And in the end, it's more like try to find the segments that will buy all of your facilities or products. The ideal customer buys the room, maybe a meeting delegate, they buy food and beverage, they go to the spa, they have a car, so they use the parking. So try to think, who is my potentially most profitable customer? Roles and responsibilities. Yes, it's not only about the revenue manager. You have to involve a lot more people into total revenue management, and especially the commercial team, and also the heads of the different departments, because they need to be involved. As a revenue manager, you cannot come to the food and beverage manager and say that, okay, now I'm going to set the prices for your menus and I'm going to dictate these things. That's not going to work. You have to work together with them and your whole commercial team. Metrics, select a few metrics. We have a crowded space of metrics in this industry. We try to measure everything, and we have not really ranked the metrics. So everything is the same importance. In this case, put together a few metrics and say that these are the 5 most important metrics. Don't use everything. Yeah, and then an action plan. And in this industry, we try to do everything at once. So the plan is, let's do this quarter, next quarter. No, spread this out over a longer time period and set objectives for each quarter. And then you have a more realistic plan of actually achieving the goal or the purpose with this. Yeah. So that was easy, right? So now we'd like to hear some of you revealing your challenges.
We don't focus on anybody, but would you like to share? I'm joking. Any volunteers? What you think are for you challenges?
Yeah.
Sir.
Microphone.
Just shout.
Yeah, I was thinking a lot of us sitting down here operating in city hotels, and then we have restaurants that we say we want to maximize revenue. But a lot of times when we kind of collect data of our diners, we don't really profile them whether they are in-house guests or they are just walk-in guests or other what do you call that? Attributes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's your first job to do from tomorrow morning on, to differentiate, to collect data.
Because as based on what I know now, none of us is doing that. You kind of profile the guests in that way. So is there any practical?
Yeah, it is collect data. Yeah. I don't get me wrong. I'm a quite nice guy most time, maybe not so much. But the point is really, without data, you have no chance. It's still gut feeling. Yeah, you have to gather data. Now there are several processes. First of all, one step back. Our employees, especially F&B, have this bad attitude. They don't like to work really with a POS system that much. It means they open the table at 12, and they close the table at 3 o'clock. What a rubbish, because the real length of stay is not 3 hours, it's less than this. So we have to train them to focus more on data quality. Then they have to indicate the number of customers there. And there is no issue to ask them, are you staying in our hotel, or are you local, or whatever. And by the way, you employ, I guess, restaurant manager, assistant restaurant manager, assistant senior restaurant manager, and whatever is possible, right? On a host, and a senior host, whatever. Ask them to go to each customer and ask them one single question. Why are you coming to our place? And you get interesting data, believe me. I make GM trainings. I conduct GM trainings. I ask the same question. GM, go in the afternoon or in the morning, check out, check in, and ask your customers, what's the reason you book our hotel? I have in my whole lifetime, I'm quite old, never heard a GM ask me this question. And there might be a good reason, because they don't want to hear the answer, right? Seriously, in all fairness. But if you ask the question, you gain valuable data. And that's the starting point. But you see, you attract maybe more in-house guests because it's convenient not to leave a hotel, or you attract even more locals, then it's even better. Yeah? And 4 more things. ask me. I'm based in Singapore. Consultancy is always welcome at a low price. Okay.
So, in addition to that, it's actually a couple of challenges with data. The first one is the data quality on the data that you actually already collect. Then the next one is how do you get that data out of that system where you have collected that data? That's a second challenge. And the third challenge is what Detlev is talking about. It's like, what other data should we start to collect? And there will be a lot of resistance about the other data that we want them to collect, because they will say, we don't have time, we have no time to ask the guest about these things. And when you checked in, you didn't even get the proposal about the loyalty program. So that problem is everywhere.
But there is time. And by the way, I remember the good old times, because I'm that old, in the 70s, 60s, last century, my time, the golden times. We have a goldfish glass on the counter of the restaurant. Please leave a business card there. And we have automatically access to the email address, for example. Changi Airport, which I love, the best airport in the world for me. I'm Singaporean by heart, okay? West Coast born. Changi Airport, you go through the immigration. You have this 4 smiley, not smiley, whatever. I always press the best, you know? Changi Airport, amazing. Such things, we have it. We must just get an idea which data quality we're looking for. And then data tells us a story. It's a bit like menu engineering. You ask your chef in the kitchen, what is the best running menu item? They say tomato soup, for example, tomato soup. Also if I do consultancy, it happens to me several times, you know. I say tomato soup. Good. Okay, how many? Yeah, so easily 10. I say 10 per day, per week. No, 10 per month. You know, and it goes on, you know what I mean? It goes on. Gut feeling. Data doesn't lie, okay? Doesn't lie, I don't lie, I don't mind.
So do we have a time for another share?
Wait,
yeah.
Check there? No, click there, check here.
No?
Just the outlook. There is some hope based on our research that it might be even the independent hotels with small hotel chains, which will be a forerunner in implementing total revenue management. This gives me some hope, okay? Planning is key. Don't start just tomorrow morning, don't do it. Plan, strategy, okay? Data quality is key. Really, data quality is key. And bit my dream to develop a new metric, RevPAC, not revenue per available room, but revenue per available customer, because this is our most important asset. Yeah? But you want to ask something?
No, if someone else would like to share a challenge.
Yeah,
that was the data challenge.
Who would like to challenge?
Anyone else?
One comment. I think it's not a challenge, but I think maybe the way forward also is about focusing at the recruitment stage, because many times, you know, we don't even ask a question to anybody in F&B or in sales marketing about the understanding of revenue management, or what we call now a commission approach. And then when we expect them to join the company, we don't talk about it in orientation. And then we suddenly expect, oh, now we'll have total revenue management. It's not going to happen. If you're talking about culture, it has to start on the recruitment stage. How are we scanning people from a commercial way? Because we don't have everybody's commercial. And that still has to be there. But of course, due to practical reasons, we just select people in a rush. Then we say why we can't do it, because
I totally agree with you, but I want to give you an example, and I think we learn most from examples, the bad missing toilet paper to the very good ones. I don't know how many Singaporeans are here, but there was a famous GM, I love this gentleman, Heinrich Grafe, general manager of Conrad Hotel. He spent, I would say, easily 60-70% of his time in the public areas. Now what happened? His employees, his staff sees this. Hey, boss is around, extra efforts. Boss is asking people how they're doing, extra efforts. I can ask the same question. You know what I mean? It's sometimes a simple recipe. Because you're right, if you hire, you don't know. They should have commercial traits and entrepreneur spirit, but you don't know, do they really have it? Quite difficult. You have to give them a chance to grow. You have to motivate them, empower them, and lead by example. Look, for example, sometimes asked if we would go back to the hotel industry. I was GM, my last position. I said, no, go away. I don't like to work with people. I wouldn't say I hate customers, but it's close to this. No, I'm joking. Yeah? But I know, based on consultings, observation, trainings, whatever, where are the issues, the gaps, the weaknesses, what can you do to do much better? Yeah? And I guess I would be even a good GM again. No discounts. Yeah. Okay, another challenge. It was a very good point. Thank you very much. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Any other who has a challenge? We cannot come closer. We have learned this is natural boundary. If you pass this, we might die. Here, you see this? This is the natural dead zone. Mm-hmm. I step over. Yeah. Do it. I love do it.
And there's no really benchmark we can compare to, that we need to communicate to the owners of the company at the end of days, and we need to convince them we are doing very well compared to our competition, but there's no such benchmark we can really.
Exciting news for you. I share. Let's go back in the live zone. Exciting news. SDR reports, for example, have F&B metrics. Okay? You find even hotel associations, F&B associations have metrics. Plus also, you compare against your previous period, revenue uplift. Mm. Year 2022 was, you in charge of this. Year 2023 or 24, you're doing with the same moderating variables, a much better revenue uplift. That's evidence. Yeah? And by the way, good point. In F&B, I always tell my students, they can really shine. If I ask my students which they would like to work in, which area, department, guess what? Hopefully nobody here. Human resources. Some more hope, marketing, sales. Okay. But I ask him, what's about F&B? Oh no, Prof, go away, F&B. I was working with F&B my first years. And I was moving fast because I was doing things which brought in revenue, pure revenue, flow through, much better profits. In F&B, you can do so quickly, on the spot. You can really shine there. And what we're doing? Oh, sorry, F&B, no.
Yeah, so I'm currently working with a hotel chain, small hotel chain in Norway, and we are implementing a total revenue management for them. And also in the Nordics, we have another benchmarking company than STR called Benchmarking Alliance, and they have meeting benchmarking, they have food and beverage benchmarking, and so on. So we can actually get that type of data into their system of total revenue forecasting.
But apart from this, please feel free to reach out to either Mr. Anders Johansson or myself. My email address is and you can find out. Ask just HSMAI, Mr. Glenn Grokic, right? Seriously, at our university, we are happy to help the industry. And sometimes we do it even unpaid. Yeah? So if you have any question, inquiries, feel free, all of you. Mm. Yeah? But don't mention unpaid. That's a bad term. Yeah?
No revenue management. Yeah.
I love it. I love free room nights. Free room nights, free laundry, and sufficient toilet paper. Makes my day. I think that's our session, right?
Yeah.
Great pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.